Today, we are going to get started because we have a pretty hefty agenda, very ambitious agenda, but all these items are extremely important where your input is going to be very critical as we move forward. Some business matters, approval of minutes. Dr. Dow, would you take care of that part?
Yes, so hopefully you've all had a chance to review the meeting minutes that were shared last week. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns, and/or a motion for approval?
Motion to approve. Phyllis Keys.
Great. A second. Candace, I saw your hand go up, so we're going to count that. And all in favor? Great. Any abstentions? Okay. Meeting minutes have been approved. Secretary Rai, would you like me to just move right on into our presentations?
Yeah. Before you do that, let me first thank our presenters, Dr. Lacrosse and Dr. Benamuna, both my colleagues from my previous life, and very, very appreciative of their leadership, not only at their institutions, but they have done some really wonderful statewide work, and you will hear from them. Increasing STEM graduates, and particularly diversity for STEM graduate, is one of the important goals of Moore-Miller administration. Within that, National Science Foundation plays a very critical role. First, they provide significant funding. It can bring national best practices to our institutions, but it also provides scholarships, essentially making STEM education free for low-income students. So there are two programs that I want to focus in the next few years. One is a scholarship for STEM, established about 23 or 24 years ago by US Congress. In our state, currently, we have about 13 STEM current awards. Out of these 13, they vary from $637,000 to $3 million. 5 community colleges have current grants, wonderful. 2 independent institutions, Morgan State University has a current grant, and 4 USM institutions have a STEM grant. In terms of IUs, again, great, from about 150,000 to about 1.5 million. And we have about 2 community colleges, 2 independent institutions, Morgan, and 4 USM institutions. And several of them have multiple awards. For example, University of Maryland College Park has 6 or 7 different awards. Morgan State has 2 different awards. I probably misspoke, but STEM has 13 statewide award. Again, very, very important. I want to say especially the IUs award. IUs means improvement in undergraduate science education. The one from UMBC is extremely important because it involves several community colleges. So a 4-year university bringing bringing community colleges together to bring national best practices in STEM education. What are those practices? First, science discoveries are happening at a very rapid pace. Aligning our curriculum with what's happening in contemporary science. That's an important objective. Then the pedagogy that goes with it to make sure all our students succeed. So this project is very special and we wanted to share with you. I'll end with this. My objective is, as lead of this agency, is in the next 2 years, every academic institution in the state of Maryland that qualifies for SSTEM or IUs projects, at least applies once for SSTEM and once for IUs, because just when you apply for these projects, you look at national best practices. Even if you don't win that, it brings changes at your institution. So with that, Dr. Dow, the floor is yours.
Well, I will just turn it straight over to our presenters. Let's start with our colleague from Montgomery College to speak on the STEM project.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dow. I'm going to share my screen to have some slides to guide our presentation. Let's see, just making sure I'm doing this correctly here. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to share with you the scholarships in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, a STEM grant, which I'm happy to present on behalf of Montgomery College. So to share a little bit with you what this grant is all about, and thank you, I saw Dr. Dow, you had that in the chat earlier, the link for the National Science Foundation site. And to emphasize here, the goal of these grants is to support this particular grant, to support institutions of higher education, to fund scholarships for academically talented low-income students, and very importantly, to also study and implement a program of activities that support their recruitment, retention, and graduation in STEM. So Dr. Rai mentioned that earlier, which really is the core of this program, to increase the number of STEM graduates, diversify the STEM graduates, and to ensure that they're achieving upward economic mobility. This solicitation is annual, and the deadline is always the first Tuesday in March. So we just passed this particular deadline for this year, March 4th, 2025. There are 3 big tracks that an institution can apply for. Track 1 is simply an institutional capacity building of the order of about no more than $1 million for a maximum of 6 years. Track 2, implementation for a single institution, which is the one that we have at Montgomery College, a maximum of $2 million for, again, a duration of 6 years. And track 3, which is the biggest, and that's the one which is interinstitutional, and that goes up to $5 million shared across the institutions, and also 6 years. There are smaller collaborative planning projects of the order of 100,000 for just 1 year, and that's really to prepare for one of these tracks, and in general, that's to prepare for track 1. So this is directly from the National Science Foundation, just to give you a little bit of an idea what the goal of this program is. So at Montgomery College, we applied in 2022, March 2023 for this grant, and fortunately was then awarded in October of 2023. Dr. Rai was truly instrumental in supporting this program, and which led to its success. We have a really powerful acronym for this grant, because at the heart of what we wanted to do for our students coming from low income backgrounds is to achieve socioeconomic mobility. So our grant is awesome. And interestingly enough, when I looked at the new solicitation for this year, there's actually verbiage to this leading to socioeconomic mobility. I'm sorry, I just saw the chat. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. So actually, last year we had the opportunity to go up to $2.5 million. And interestingly, this year when I looked it up in 2024, it was $2 million. So I think we applied at the right time to get an extra $500,000 for our students. So our grant award allows us to then give $12,000 per student per year. And the amazing part about this new solicitation, which was not the case in the past, it includes tuition, of course, as it did before, scholarships, but also cost of living and internship stipends. So this was really a transformative opportunity to have this for our students. On the right of my slide here, you can see this is a logo that we designed specifically for this grant, because our idea with this cohort is we really wanted the students to support each other, to help elevate them. And the students were instrumental in really designing this for us. So a little bit more about the project at Montgomery College and the what, the why, and the how. So we are able through this grant to provide eligible low-income students with last dollar scholarships to help them study along 4 tracks. So in my area, science, engineering, technology at Montgomery College, we have degrees in computer science, degrees in cybersecurity, engineering, network, and wireless technologies. So we needed to demonstrate that we would be able to increase the region's well-trained STEM workforce. So applying for this grant required us to then really dig into the landscape and to then come up with a full synthesis of the jobs out there in these particular fields, their earnings, and to demonstrate how then students could achieve upward mobility. A last dollar scholarship is very important because many of our students do receive federal financial aid. Sometimes it doesn't cover all of their costs. So with this grant, we're able to then cover the remaining outstanding tuition that they have left. So it's not exclusive. Some students have taken loans. They're also able to then not take the loan and then take this scholarship. So how do we do this? We place students in a cohort model to provide peer support for them. That's really very important. We match students with academic mentors, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And we provide them, as we said, from this award with internships and research experiences, which are really important for their professional experience and networking. So we have just recruited our first cohort, spring 2024. So because our grant was awarded in October, we were not able to have a cohort for the fall semester, but we do have a nice smaller size cohort that was by design as we are really testing out all of our mechanisms. So these students really are just so amazing for us to have in this first semester. We have 4 mentors. So in addition to myself as the PI for this grant, I have 4 co-PIs along with me. And each of these co-PIs is responsible for one of the tracks. Of course, our computer science track is our largest, and co-PI Zhang is our program mentor for computer science and electrical engineering, supported by co-PI Chang, who also will mentor a smaller group of networking students, but we did want to allow for that possibility. Another very large track is cybersecurity. Our program mentor is David Vargas, and Professor Alex Ho, longtime engineering faculty, is our program mentor for all of the other engineering tracks. These program mentors are instrumental for our students. They meet with them weekly. They each have their assigned mentee. mentees, and they truly become like parents for them, because it's not just the academic, but it's really ensuring that they're successful in all parts of their journey. And currently, they're actually helping them to secure internships for the summer, where we have made having an internship for the summer a requirement to gain that professional experience. We also have experiential learning leaders. So these are more of our faculty and laboratory managers, where we want our students to be part of extracurricular activities and giving back to the community, where the students are part of science outreach in the community. And we also are creating a professional network for them. One of our leaders of experiential learning hosts an entire industry speakers customized for the students, where they can then learn how to interact with professionals. So just making sure doing okay on time here. Big objectives for us are really 4 of them. So we have set benchmarks for performance rates, where we believe our hypothesis is that all of this support that we are providing to our students will provide them with the ability to then perform at higher rates than our students that would not have these experiences. We want to ensure that they're really going through these supervised experiential learning opportunities to prepare them for the next phases post-graduation. And of course, as the name, increase the upward mobility. And we also will go through an analysis of their satisfaction rate. So this particular program by NSF required us to have a named evaluator. It was the first time that the evaluation assessment needed to be defined in the proposal itself. So that's a big piece of it. And it truly ended up being a big benefit in the proposal itself, because it forced us to really analyze our goals and how we were going to measure them, and continues to be important as we're working with our students. So we estimate that we would be able to provide 150 scholarships over the 6 years. Depends, of course, on how much the students need. So that is a maximum. And we do actually have students who are in a deep need, so they qualify for the full amount. Others partial, and so would allow us to get more scholarships. This is very busy. I'm not going to go through all the points, but just to ensure we do get this question a lot from students, this particular program is restricted to U.S. citizens or permanent residents, and the students have to have a FAFSA on file. We have made it a really low barrier in terms of bureaucracy for the students. We have an application site right on our Montgomery College website. The academic eligibility is defined by a GPA of 2.7 or higher. We have made the ability for students who might have had a difficult semester or so to be able to get recommendations from their students. And the participation requirements are very important. We do have onboarding documents for our students, where we want to ensure that they're full-time. We believe that when students are fully committed to the program, then they can really dedicate all their time to it. We have seminar courses, and we do have industry visits for them. This first cohort just finished visiting PEPCO, because we want to make sure, again, that they are creating that professional network. So, and just to end with, because this is such an important gift from the National Science Foundation, we want our students to realize that this is really important, this opportunity that they've been given. So we do have core values that we want to instill in them, because we believe they'll go out there and be responsible citizens, and to just pay that forward. So that's all I had for you. Hope I was okay on time, and I will stop sharing right here.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, thoughts? with very helpful background information and specific information on Montgomery's initiative. Exciting. Okay, if you can hang on just in case we do have some additional questions, let me turn it over to our other colleague from UMBC to talk about the IUSE project. Go ahead, Dr. LaCrosse. Great, thank you.
All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen there.
You are good to go.
All right. Well, thank you for the invitation, Emily, and it's good to see Dr. Wright again. We worked very closely in the past, and that's a program that's still doing really well. This probably got the longest title out there. It's Collaborative Research, Institutional and Community Transformation for Teaching and Learning Quantitative Reasoning Biological Sciences. This is an NSF use grant, and it really can see that we work really closely with our sending institutions, our feeder institutions, and you can do these grants in two ways. The lead institution can take care of everything. We're more involved with each of the institutions having their own PI and being in control of their own budgets. So we like the autonomy of giving autonomy to people to be successful. Let me see here. Well, I don't have to tell this group the importance of community colleges. They enroll half the students in the United States. If you look at the data that's out there, it's got Black and Hispanic students, minority students, 30%. Many of them come from lower income students. We just heard a great talk, some good numbers on that. And it's a primary access point to higher education for disadvantaged students. And I'll tell you, I was one of them. I came in through a two-year school to get to where I am today. The issue that comes up is that only a small percentage of those that actually intend to transfer complete a bachelor's degree, and it's white students do it twice as likely as to transfer to four-year students than Black and Latinx students, and higher income students as well, twice as likely. That's what the data is showing, and we can't live with that. We need all these students to be successful. We want many of them to go out there, because if you look at the PCAS reports and other ones from the past, we need 1 million more scientists out there to get the work done and be competitive. Everything's got an origin. Our origin for this started with a grant back in 2011 to 15. We had 4 institutions come together and tried to develop competency-based modules and assessment tools to see if it made a difference in their education. And when we got done with the entire project, there's only one result that just stood out versus the demographics, and that's whether a student was a transfer student or not. And so what you can see is that when it came to quantitative numeracy or interpreting data sets, the direct entry students scored much better. So during those years that followed, we continued with aligning courses and curriculum, but trying to erase the wall between institution A and institution B, right? The students shouldn't have to see the differences in the institution. And so that helped us a lot with aligning chemistry and math and other as we went forward. And then the build student was really focused on the middle of the achievement curve, not just the scholar students, the ones that, come in doing really well. How about the students in the middle of the achievement curve? And so the idea to come up with is the Nexus Institute of Quantitative Biology partnership, right? And we had 4 community colleges that we worked with. We got the NSF IUSE grant, the Improvement Undergraduate STEM Education. And the overall goal is to achieve these long-term gains in students' abilities or apply quantitative reasoning. Can we do it by making more of a community between the 4-year institution and the 2-year institution, being a partnership, working together? And I think that's an important part of this whole project, is for us to get to know each other, work together, and see the expectations. And so as we deepen, can we also increase the success of the students? So we came up with 3 communities that we work with, right? And that's first, curricular alignment. You have to get on the same page. You have to talk with one another, right? And we had course numbers, different prerequisites, different ways of doing assessment. Work groups, they built modules with the faculty working together. This made them know each other. They got to know each person, what they're expecting. And what you find out is that the faculty are the same in both locations, just took different paths in life. And they have the same. And then faculty development is our long-term goal, is that each of these institutions we work with have their own unique professional development expertise. We share that, and we have the faculty work together, and that can go on forever past the grant. And so when we look at the different things, curricular awareness, all right, faculty reviewed the curricula, 4 core courses by 1, Intro Bio 1, 2, Genetics, and Cell. They basically did a SWOT analysis. The module, each institute worked together over the years to develop these, and this has been going on for the past 4 or 5 years. And the community now, we work together in professional development. The questions we were asking is the proposed interinstitutional model of creating scholarly communities an effective way. Will this model work? Can we work together? If we add modules, can we increase the gains in quantitative skills? And to what extent can increase the amount of this quantitative reasoning? And math is important. You know, people can't hide from it nowadays. It's a technological society. Does it improve their biological skills? One of the things that was really important from a previous grant that took us 5 years to complete was a MOU for data sharing between institutions. That is a big nut to crack, but we have one now that we continue to modify. And that really allowed us to work together and be with one another. And we based what we were going to do on the competencies from the Scientific Foundation for Future Physicians. In there, these are all the things you need to know to go off to med school. But really, they work for quantitative reasoning for almost any graduate program or purpose you have to go forward. So far, we've developed 21 modules, 24 is on the horizon, we'll finish up. We need a lot of them, right? It can't be just one module here and one module there. It has to be something. And these modules are given at both institutions, right? So they will see the same thing that they're going to see when they come here. There's no more disadvantage for being a transfer student. And then what we had here is a complete mapping out with the math faculty from each of the institutions working together to how difficult it is. And so at one end, you had the light blue, and then you go to the middle ones, more harder, and then the yellow one, right? That's more difficult. So you scaffold what is needed to make it successful. And so we had all of this mapped out. And what you can see is what we expected from the original experiment way back when, is that modules make a difference. Students like to roll up their sleeves and work and analyze data. You know, sitting in a class, it just can be extremely boring sometimes, right? It's very passive. Engaged learning is the way to go. And you can see overall, they work. In the modules, it's very important to look at how the students feel about it. They like the engagement. They like the action. They like the opportunity to analyze data that makes sense to them, right? And the types of questions are asked lead to one another, so students learn within the process. They don't all memorize it the night before a test going forward. And this is the big question. If I had any one slide to show you, is we've been able to erase the performance gap between the direct entry students and the transfer students, right? For these students. And what we're having here is this erasure is taking place for not a small group of students, but as you can see from the total number of students that are being attended, thousands. We have 10,842 students have, not the individual people, modules that people have to work with. And some of them, multiple, and some of them not others. And what can we say? We've made all our institutions aware of each other's work. We've seen institutions, we don't make anybody do anything. You have to do it out of willingness to do yourself. And so some CCs impose new math prereqs, like pre-calc, and other ones decide to offer Intro Bio 2. And it's been widely adopted. In fact, anybody in the institution, state of Maryland, anyone outside of that can go in and get all these modules that we've developed through Cubes. It's out there, totally available to disseminate to get to where you want to go. The conclusions, I particularly like working with everybody. So the higher education, we can work together and we can do that to great success. We do pre and post and all the data analysis that goes with this is a study, right? And we have got equal gains by community college students and direct transfers. There is no difference. And much of that comes from the fact that faculty don't have any differences in expectations anymore, right? And then global assessments, suggested models do increase learning. They're completely portable. They're not only targeted to one institution or another. They're generic enough that anybody can adapt them. And we're going to continue to follow this data for a little bit longer. And I'd be remiss if I didn't put in all the people, and this is just a fraction of them, that have worked on this. It takes a lot of people to do it. But what really shows is that everybody cares about student success. Everybody wants this to be successful. And Sanjay will be happy to know that we're putting in for another NSFIUs, and we've written an STEM that's in there being reviewed right now. So that's what I got.
Thank you. Very helpful presentation. I do have to ask if I read that correctly, that one of the modules is called Snazzy Signals.
Yeah, basically they try to, the title means a lot. The title means a lot to getting a proposal. Like awesome, that's awesome, right? But also in class, students will just, they talk a different language. And you got to meet them at least halfway with these things. And the faculty have fun bringing it up. They're still kids at heart when they do these things.
Well, thank you to both of our presenters on both, again, the project themselves, as well as the process in which to get the award and the background for the awards themselves. Any questions for our presenters? And presenters, do you have any words of advice to our segmental leaders as we encourage them to encourage campuses to apply for these grants?
We work with many things with Montgomery College and the other institutions as well. Very open to doing this. And I think the biggest thing that we have to do, the biggest gain, is for the faculty at the 4-year institution to know the faculty at the 2-year institution. If you don't know your neighbor, it's easy to throw rocks at them, right? But if you know them, it's not going to happen. If you're on the road and there's a car in front of you that you're getting mad at, just make believe that there's someone you know, and you won't have the same effect, right? So getting our faculty together and then to have them share resources, it's going to save us money, time, and energy. So I definitely enjoy working with my community college partners in all of this.
Dr. Dow, I want to take a few seconds to say really appreciate the time that Bill and Nawal have given us. I know they are very busy people, but they are really a true treasure in the state of Maryland for doing this great work. You see the success of transfer students. That's another very important objective, and you will hear more about this in Moore-Miller Plan. Transfer success is extremely important for our state, and you see how it can be done. It cannot be done without serious engagement of leadership and faculty and collaboration between 4-year and 2-year schools. It can't just happen from outside, right? So that's important. And why do we make these presentations here? My suggestion or somewhat subtle expectation is that you will take this to your leadership on your campuses. You will share that these are the priorities for the state: increasing STEM graduates, diversity of STEM graduates, solving this transfer problem. My entire career here in Maryland, we have been hearing about advanced program that exist on the other side of the river. I have great friends there. I appreciate that. But we need to create those programs here. So students can transfer from 2-year to 4-year schools in a seamless manner.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the data that Dr. LaCrosse shared in terms of diversity of students at community colleges and success of transfer students and those things. We have expertise here. We have some models right here that are successful. Take this to your leadership. Take this to your leadership of deans and department chairs. And Dr. LaCrosse and Dr. Benamuna both are extremely busy, but I know they are very generous people too. So once in a while, they may be able to do you a virtual presentation or something for your faculty or your dean, and they are writing proposals all the time. You may collaborate with them. First thing is to collaborate with someone, then write your own. Mm-hmm. That is the way, and there's never enough time. I know Dr. Benamuna, when she was doing this awesome project, all of us were busy. And everyone was saying, no, not this year, let's do next year. Right? It always happens. But we have to make that priority because this is a new day in the state of Maryland. We are focused on these issues and we want to see success, and we will succeed. Just these meetings have changed, right? These kind of conversations, these kind of agenda items are new for us here too. So again, I want to thank both presenters, and you have their information, you have their PowerPoint available. Reach out to them. And the SSTEM next deadline is March 2025. I saw that. Mm-hmm. So in March meeting in 2025, I'm going to ask how many institutions have applied. All we care is about applying. Whether you win or not, that's okay. But I tell you what, when I wrote for the first time, I was surprised that we got the project, right? And that was, several years ago. So use the expertise that are here, make this a priority for your campuses. And again, very appreciative and very, very thankful to Bill and Nawal. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll leave you to your meeting. So
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
bye.
So Secretary, I think we have next up Derek providing some updates on close of legislative session. Derek, you're on mute.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are you all this morning? I have a brief PowerPoint presentation to share with you all. And I'm going to share a few highlights, if I can, with respect to the past General Assembly session. I'm starting the slideshow now. Again, good morning. First, I'd like to discuss, give a general overview, because I know Dr. Dow will go a little more in depth with respect to the 10 legislative priorities that MHEC will be required to implement under House Bill 1244. Initially, in the House Bill 1244, Senate Bill 1022, it went to conference. The enroll bill did come out and was published this morning, and it appears as if House Bill 1244 was in fact adopted by the Senate. Part of the reason why the bill went to conference was because of one of the amendments as related to emerging workforce needs and academic program approval. The amendment included the 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland and also the University of Maryland College Park as well, having the ability to submit unique programs to address emerging workforce needs based on the state of Maryland strategic plan for emerging workforce. And Dr. Dow, again, I'll let you go deeper with respect to the 10 points. I know you're on the agenda for that as well. Now, fast forward just a little bit. Another bill that was of consequence with respect to our agency was Next Generation Scholars of Maryland program. Currently, this program was being administered by the Maryland State Department of Education. However, under House Bill 624, Senate Bill 517, the administration of this program is being shifted from MSDE to MHEC. MSDE will still be a partner in terms of coordinating this program with respect to outreach in the middle school segment, as well as marketing and promoting the program. MHEC would be primarily responsible for the actual grants that go out to nonprofits to help those students in their glide path towards post-secondary high school and post-secondary education as well. And again, that's the Next Generation Scholars Program. Another bill, which was a priority for our agency, was the Promise Scholarship. House Bill 607, Senate Bill 1141, enabled individuals who were seeking non-credit courses to actually apply for the Promise Scholarship. This bill, in fact, passed this legislative session. It's going to the governor's desk for signature as well. And it allows those individuals who are seeking non-credit apprenticeships and other types of certification programs to take advantage of the Promise Scholarship. Again, House Bill 607. Another bill as relates to the agency was House Bill 901 as it relates to providing a waiver for those individuals who have a disability who will drop below the 12-hour threshold and only take 6 credit hours in their academic program. As it relates, as it stands currently, if they drop below 12 credit hours, they will become academically ineligible to receive the senatorial or delegate scholarship. However, this bill, House Bill 901, allows individuals to submit a medical waiver identifying their disability, and then our agency will review the waiver and allow them to remain eligible for the actual senatorial or delegate scholarship as a part-time student. Again, House Bill 901 and Senate Bill 967. The REBACT, Resources and Education for All Prisoners Act, was also a bill where House Bill 992, which focuses on our agency, MHEC, working with the Department of Corrections and identifying those individuals and tracking students who are Pell Grant eligible within the Maryland State Prison System, who are also taking college credit classes, to make sure that they do have a bona fide curriculum and also that they are matriculating as relates to that curriculum that they've identified they want to participate in as a Pell Grant eligible student. And also, please forgive my my lighting. The sun seems to be moving behind the building, so please forgive the lighting. Also, another bill that our agency was focused on was the Maryland Pathway to Nursing Pilot Program, and also the establishment of an advisory committee. House Bill 354 looks at creating 2 pilot sites in the state of Maryland. MHEC will administer grants to those pilot sites that will enable those sites to identify and support those students who are part of the nursing program. And again, this is House Bill 354, Senate Bill 718 as relates to a actual nursing pilot program. Initially, the advisory committee will submit a report, my understanding from this December, studying the feasibility of this program, and if it is in fact something that can be done with respect to those 2 pilot sites, it will be implemented going forward next year. Again, this is a Maryland Pathway to Nursing Pilot Program, and also the establishment of the Nursing Advisory Committee. There's quite a few bills, as you all could imagine, with our agency that fall under the umbrella of OSFA. One of the bills that was passed on an emergency need was the Fallen Transportation Workers Scholarship Program, House Bill 1526. As you all know about the Francis Scott Key Bridge, this bill will enable our agency to provide financial assistance to those students and also spouses of transportation workers who are unfortunately killed in the line of duty while they're working. This bill will enable MDOT to inform us of the family members of the workers who are in fact killed in the line of duty, and then it is upon our agency to reach out to those individuals, those families, to determine whether or not if there are students who are either applying or currently enrolled in college going forward. And again, this bill is a result of the unfortunate tragedy of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. It was introduced by the governor's office in an emergency. Under the Janet Hoffman Loan Program, there are several scholarships that were either implemented or tweaked this legislative session. One scholarship in particular is the actual House Bill 545. It was brought to our agency's attention that school nurses were not allowed to participate in the Janet Hoffman Loan Repayment Program. We could not determine why, except for the fact that initially school nurses were not a priority nursing need in the state of Maryland. As you can imagine, there were other needs, in particular as relates to hospitals and underserved communities and so forth. This bill expands the eligibility for those individuals who are school nurses, with the caveat that they must also serve in areas identified by the health department as high need schools across the state of Maryland as well, similar to hospitals with respect to health disparities and other needs and so forth. And again, this bill, in fact, did pass. I also have here, there was a veterinary program that was looked at as well under House Bill 1398. That bill did not pass. For those of you who may have been tracking it, the veterinary program bill with respect to loan repayment did not pass out of committee. Also, the dental care program, for those who are tracking that bill as well, House Bill 393, Senate Bill 354, that bill did not pass out of committee as well. It sought to expand the dental care program and loan assistance repayment as well. Another bill that did pass is House Bill 1101, and this bill primarily expanded to community colleges the ability for police officers and probation agents to be a part of the scholarship program under the police officer recruitment and retention scholarships that we have in our agency as well. And again, this bill expanded to the community colleges. Senate Bill 691, House Bill 899, Charles C. Riley Firefighter, Ambulance, and Rescue Squad Member Scholarship. This bill primarily altered and extended it to also community colleges and also all institutions across the state of Maryland who were in fact accredited as institutions of higher education through our agency. Those students who were part of this program could also participate as well under this new definition and alteration. Senate Bill 1178. This bill was looked at the Douglas J. Peters Veterans of Afghanistan Iraq Conflict Scholarship. This repealed the service terminal date. There was a statute whereby the Department of Defense declared the Afghanistan and Iraq war date certain ended when President Bush II landed on an aircraft carrier. However, there were still soldiers, as we all know, serving in the theater in both Iraq and Afghanistan for several years after the declaration of the end of the war. This bill, Senate Bill 1178, removes that date and statute and allows those service members who, in fact, continue to serve until our full withdrawal from Iraq and Afghanistan, they can now participate in the Veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq Conflict Scholarship as well. House Bill 901, Senate Bill 967. Also, I've already went over that one. My apologies. This bill again looks at the documented disability for students as well. There were also additional bills passed in the legislative session, not focused on scholarships solely. Senate Bill 516, House Bill 685. Economic development. This commission looks at the Aerospace Technology Commission. It was established for a number of you all, Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, Baltimore, and also University of Maryland, College Park, are designated members. Also in this commission, it also designates a member, a representative who oversees Maryland Higher Education Institutions, which in fact is our agency as well, just as an FYI. House Bill 634, Senate Bill 444. This bill was in fact signed last Tuesday. Student Data System Center actually will begin sharing student data information with the U.S. Census Bureau as well. This bill, in fact, was again signed last Tuesday after sine die. Another bill looked at teacher retention and program alterations regarding the institution of initial eligibility. This bill also expanded community colleges as well. House Bill 75, Senate Bill 377 looks at, again, expanding the Teacher Development Retention Fund being used to administer for expenses for the program to also now include community colleges. Last bill, House Bill 4, Senate Bill 543. You all are very much aware that this bill focused on prohibiting the consideration of legacy students. This bill, in fact, did pass both chambers. And again, it prohibits institutions of higher education who receive state funding from considering legacy admissions as well. And last but not least, just want to share with you all bill signings, the dates and the times going forward. Again, April 25th is upcoming, May 9th, and also May 16th. And with that, I'll pause there and return the floor back to you, Dr. Dow, if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you, Derek. Any questions for Derek? And open it up for discussion with our segmental leaders on bills implementation questions.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions about program approval as things move forward with all the new rules.
Definitely, which I'll go over a little bit in the next agenda item. Anything else for Derek before we move on? All right. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Great. So I think I am up next with a handful of updates. I do have some slides and we'll be happy to circulate them out to the group. So let me walk through them and there we go. Okay. So again, the academic program approval process, some significant changes per legislation, as you all heard. What you see on the screen are the new initiatives that we will be focusing on over the next 6, 12, 18 months. So first and foremost, a new collaboration between MHEC, Labor and Commerce to determine statewide and regional workforce need in emerging fields, and that this would be aligned with potentially new or revised academic programs via an addendum to the state plan. Standards for unreasonable and unnecessary duplication, letters of intent, mission statement review, a new administrative procedures guide, revisions to substantial modifications, a harm analysis for when we do allow duplication with our HBCUs, and the creation of the Program Review Process Advisory Council. Those of you who have been following the bill, that none of that should be new. And as Derek noted, the final iteration of the bill was released, and we are reviewing that. Reviewing it right before this meeting started to see what those final amendments look like. We'll definitely keep the Segmental Advisory Council posted as we develop these new requirements and new processes. In addition to the bill, we are required to submit 3 progress reports, I will call them, JCRs. One is due July 1st, September 30th, and December 31st. Each one of them asks for an update on the state regional workforce need and where we are in developing those targeted industries and occupations. Certainly in the first and second report, an update on substantial modification and where we are. The expectation is that we would propose regulatory changes at our September commission meeting. And that group is meeting again this week, and we'll meet kind of every 3 weeks for the next little while to determine what those changes look like. The development of an administrative procedures guide, unreasonable and unnecessary duplication. You can see on the slide the items that we need to address in each of these progress reports. So these are kind of markers for us to hit as we move forward with implementation and reporting to the General Assembly on our progress. Again, we will be transparent, collaborative as we think through what the letter of intent process will look like, what the new guidelines for mission statement will look like, and we'll roll that out and let you all know how we can move that work forward in a collaborative, transparent way. Questions on the academic program approval process changes that are forthcoming before I move on to the next topic? Okay, quite a bunch today. Okay, on to the next topic, our Moore-Miller state plan. If you don't know or have not had a chance to review Governor Moore's state plan, the administrative plan.
Hard to see this slide. Can you
no.
use the presentation mode?
Sure. It was giving me a bit of a
Yeah.
hassle earlier in presentation mode, but I will certainly see what I can do here. Just give me a minute. Let's see if this works. It wasn't sharing properly earlier. Let's see.
Yes, better. Thank you.
Better? Okay. Thank you, Secretary. Sorry about that. Moore-Miller state plan, if you've not had a chance to review it, we strongly encourage you to review it. There are 10 priorities under the Moore-Miller administration, all starting with the tagline, "Leave nobody behind." As you can see from the list, setting Maryland students up for success is the priority that higher ed fits best in, but there are a number of other priorities in which both MHEC and our colleges and universities are going to be working towards meeting specific objectives. Blueprint is kind of threaded throughout all of these, particularly when we talk about ending child poverty and creating safer communities. The academic program review statewide workforce needs fits directly under connecting Marylanders to jobs and creating an equitable, robust, and competitive economy. So higher ed really does fit into a number of these priorities under the Moore-Miller State Plan. As our agency progresses on a number of initiatives, we will be centering those initiatives within the Moore-Miller State Plan. There are a handful of KPIs that we will be reporting to the governor's office around enrollment, completion, financial aid data, to ensure that students are not only accessing post-secondary education, but are successful in completing what they started. So more to come. I think the big ask at this point is familiarize yourself with the state plan if you haven't already done so. Please tell your segmental leader or your campus leaders in your segment about the Moore-Miller State Plan. This will be a guiding document under this administration. And like I said, there are going to be some specific key performance indicators that our agency will be reporting out on behalf of all of higher education. So as this develops and as initiatives are specified, again, we will keep the Segmental Advisory Council up to date. Questions, comments on the Moore-Miller State Plan? Secretary Rye, do you have anything you'd like to add? And I know Jeff Newman has been working directly with the governor's office as well. Anything?
No, thank you. It's great. Completion transfer is also a very important part of that. Increasing number of STEM graduates by a very large number. That's all. It's very bold, ambitious. But you know, the capacity of Maryland higher education is strong, and we believe we'll be able to deliver on these promises. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Questions on Moore-Miller State Plan from the group? Okay. If not, on to the next topic. Just another plug around our post-2025 goals and the survey that is out there. In the survey, we prioritize submitting responses by today, and that's really for in advance of our commission meeting next week, which will provide some summary remarks. But we're going to keep that link live over the next couple of months so people can continue to provide responses on these 5 big topics: equity, meaningful credentials, production versus population, industry-specific goals, and research goals. We will be working with, again, Department of Labor and Commerce, as well as potentially Department of Health and MSDE on these goals and thinking through what makes sense for the state. There are a number of blueprint-related goals, things around industry-recognized credentials with the Governor's Workforce Development Board, and some additional goals in the health and labor field around apprenticeship opportunities. So we want to be collaborative. We want to recognize those existing goals as we think through post-2025 goals for our higher education community and for Maryland writ large. So just know that those conversations are happening, and we'll be presenting that out to the commissioners on a regular basis, and certainly giving you all updates in future segmental meetings. We will be bringing together segmental leaders in the near future to think through specific options when we talk about specific goals and what that looks like. And so more to come on this front. This is just a plug to keep this on your radar and to encourage people to complete that survey as they see fit. Okay, questions, post-2025 goals.
So Dr. Dow, surveys are due today, but people can still submit it. But you will encourage that we submit our surveys sooner, not because when do you think we'll wrap up? When do you think we will have Maryland's post-2025 goals ready and we'll start working on implementing them? In the survey, you give examples from Massachusetts, Texas, and some other states. They are about few years ahead of us. So really appreciate and thank everyone who has already submitted the survey. A good number of people have submitted them and some really good ideas. But if you have not submitted it yet, let's make it this week, maybe by close of business on Friday. This is your opportunity to give your input on what the state goals should be. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Secretary Rai. A loose schedule is we would like to have some concrete goals identified by the end of the summer months before the next academic year, so that we can spend the fall thinking through and sharing that out publicly and making tweaks as needed depending on the feedback. So next up is now thinking through, okay, equity is important. What kind of specific equity goals do we need to make? And presenting that to the larger community and narrowing that by the end of the summer months. Okay, on to the next topic. Blueprint implementation updates. Again, just to share with the group, we have an upcoming revision to the MHEC implementation plan. It's due to the AIB on June 15th. We will circulate a draft, as we did last year, to the larger higher education community for input. Please do keep an eye out for that, because the Segmental Advisory Council doesn't meet, I think, until June 8th, early June. We will have to communicate via email once we get this draft ready and out to the higher ed community for input. We are working with AIB staff to best understand what they would like in the revisions and making sure we hit that mark. We also are working with MSDE to establish some standing meetings with senior leadership at MSDE regarding a variety of blueprint implementation topics. So for example, MHEC and MSDE, we need to have a separate joint meeting on teacher preparation and the standards related to that, and making sure our education deans and directors are making the necessary updates. There have been a ton of questions that have come out around dual enrollment: who pays for it, how many classes, which classes, who teaches the classes. So that has been a renewed energy as the LEAs think about how they are going to use their blueprint funds. You can see the remainder of the topics on the screen. This is all to say that we are working with MSDE to have those standing meetings to talk about implementation issues. These meetings are not policy meetings. These are meetings really to overcome barriers and challenges, and collectively between our two agencies have one voice when it comes to implementing initiatives that cross between our two agencies. So more to come as those are developing. Likely some of this will land itself in guidance documentation, as well as potential convenings of relevant implementers, so college counselors, education deans and directors, whoever the important stakeholders are for implementing some of these topics. Questions on Blueprint? Issues, comments, concerns? Okay, on to the next. Civic engagement initiatives. I want to give a shout out to Nancy Shapiro. She has been leading this work for a number of years on behalf of the University System of Maryland, as well in many ways as a default for Maryland as a representative. We have now, with Secretary Rai's leadership and under Governor Moore's initiative, Maryland will now officially be part of a multi-state collaborative for college civic engagement and democracy learning. Secretary Rai will convene with a number of other system leaders and SHIOs in May to talk about how this works in other states, what Maryland can be doing, and bringing back some initiatives around civic engagement. This also coincides with a recommendation from our Student Advisory Council requesting MHEC to support campus-based initiatives around voting, access to voting, around ensuring that students are involved in the democratic process. And so we will be asking our campus presidents for some updates on recent initiatives. We know campus leadership, they are by and large supportive of this work. We just would like to document that and catalog that information, particularly in advance of this May meeting. So know that that is a forthcoming request from Secretary Rye on behalf of our commissioners. So civic engagement will likely grow as a priority for our agency. This aligns again with the Moore-Miller state plan around ensuring our young adults having an opportunity to participate in the democratic process. Questions on civic engagement initiatives? Okay, on to the next. Finally, just some good news projects that we'd like to announce and share with you. We have begun an early collaboration with Aspen Institute specific to transfer initiatives. Aspen Institute will offer their services in helping Maryland create some goals around transfer, goals that are specific to transfer, including goals for didactic or triads of campuses that have high transfer rates. So you just heard from UMBC talking about their collaboration with CCBC, Anne Arundel. Those are really good opportunities for us to set some goals and to expand on those didactic relationships to make transfer seem seamless to the students, that they identify as both a CCB student and a UMBC student at the same time and don't know the difference when they are in any particular class. So we're excited about that collaboration. That will really land with presidential leadership, top-down leadership to change campus culture, to prioritize it on campuses, because if the president is saying it's a priority, then it really is a priority for the campus. A second good news project is, oh, Secretary Rye, go for it.
Yes. Thank you for this project, Dr. Dow. You heard UMBC's effort, right? So that is on academic alignment, how curriculum is aligned. Science is changing, and a four-year curriculum is changing, how to make sure that in a proactive way, there's a faculty-to-faculty relationship and curriculum is updated. Modules, so how students at 2-year are taught, how students are 4-year taught, there's an agreement. Assessment, short answer questions, multiple choice, all that is part of alignment. So that is just the academic side. But when we talk about seamless transfer, it's much more than academics. You know, admissions, scholarships, a lot of other barriers that are there for students. We need to dismantle them. And the program that is often mentioned across the country is the advanced program. And programs like that are successful if there is alignment among the leadership of the state and the leadership of the institution. I'm very hopeful, very encouraged by this Aspen Institute coming in to facilitate that conversation and also bring those national best practices. So again, when you go back to your campuses, make sure that everyone is informed about the objectives of this, and we are really looking forward to making sure that Maryland has seamless transfer. You also heard just from Dr. LaCrosse's data, how many undergraduate students are at our community colleges. And you know, majority of them are first generation students and students of color. So this transfer issue becomes fundamentally important for us because the equity is closely linked to the equity and access to higher education in Maryland. So transfer will be a very important objective for our state as we move forward. Thank you, Dr. Dow.
Great. Thank you, Secretary Rye. The next good news project is a grant-funded initiative with NDRC, which is expanding the success model. The success model is an evidence-based model, so it is not pilot testing the initiative per se, but it is pilot testing it in the context of Maryland. Through this grant opportunity, we will work with 3 community colleges as initial sites for implementation. The model is an intrusive advising model with a financial incentive for students to participate. It is targeted for high risk and specific student populations. And our hope is that we will figure out how to expand this to other colleges throughout the state as this gets implemented. We have just signed our site agreement with MDRC, so we're still in the early stages. Right now, this is only funded for the next academic year, but one of our goals, like I said, is to think through sustainability and what that looks like, and resources for sustainability and expansion. So intrusive academic advising model that incorporates wraparound services for students and financial incentives. The next good news project is Maryland was selected for a non-credit academy with SHIO with 5 other states. So really a small group of state leadership. This non-credit academy is similarly focused on goal setting and creating a community of practice. I've said it out loud, I'll say it again. I do think Maryland is a bit of ahead of the game when it comes to other states and collecting non-credit data. We are in the 2nd or 3rd year of a completer collection for students that complete non-credit programs of studies at our community colleges, and are in the final stages for an enrollment or registration collection for students that are navigating the non-credit world at our community colleges. So super exciting. We're working closely with MLDS on this project so that they can identify workforce outcomes, as well as making sure that we have alignment internally with other collections as students navigate both non-credit and credit opportunities. So more to come on that, but excited that we are a state that is not only selected, but from my vantage point, a little bit ahead of the curve. Secretary Rai.
Yes, and again, I can't thank everyone in the state enough. We are selected and we are among the 5 states. But I'd also say, Dr. Dow, even the collaboration with Aspen Institute and also MDRC, we went through a rigorous selection process, and we are among the 2 or 3 chosen. And that happens because of the great work that's happening in our higher education, great work that's happening on our campuses. And because of that, we are able to get in this. And together, I believe more than $1 million or so, some funds are coming too, so that we can implement these projects.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you, Secretary. Last good news project is an IES grant awarded. It's awarded technically to a scholar at UMBC, Jane Lincove, but it really is a grant to study Maryland's pathways for teacher preparation. So it is really a Maryland grant in many ways. MHEC, as well as MLDS and other thought partners are considered co-PIs as part of the grant, studying the TAM pathway, AAT, and other alternative pathways and the long-term viability of that work. The grant doesn't start until, I believe, this fall, but nonetheless, we've received notification of the award and have had some initial meetings with IES in seeing what this all looks like. So super exciting to be able to have some federal funding to study those pathways, particularly in light of Blueprint.
Can you,
Can
you tell us the total grant amount for this?
I believe it's just a little over $1 million. And that will be primarily used to hire researchers to do data analysis, to hold focus groups as necessary, and really kind of think through policy implications. I think that's one of the reasons why Maryland was selected. Is Dr. Limcove is very focused on making sure there are explicit policy recommendations post analysis. And that's all I got. Give me 2 seconds to stop sharing. Yes, Monica.
Thanks. You can hear me okay? Yes?
We
Good.
can hear you.
All right. Great. Awesome. Going back to the MDRC grants, you mentioned 3 community colleges. Have you decided on which 3, or is that, yeah, I don't recall you mentioning the 3. So
No.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I will share, we are talking. So one of the priorities in working with MDRC is they first came to us and said, well, we want to prioritize diverse student bodies. And in talking with Secretary Rye, we said, that's great. We also need to prioritize diverse campuses because we have a variety of different types of campuses. So in looking at a number of metrics, we landed with Warwick Community College, Baltimore City Community College, and Prince George's Community Colleges as implementation sites. One of the elements is we broke the community colleges into small, medium, and large, as well as considering urbanicity and other student demographic considerations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jeff Newman, Assistant Secretary for Finance and Administration.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to take this opportunity to announce that in the fiscal 2025 budget, MHEC received $25 million for a campus security grant to be provided to institutions to assess or implement or continue campus security or campus safety projects or initiatives. So I wanted to announce this at this meeting and let you all know that it will be coming available. We're going to be doing a notice of funding availability shortly and make the applications available to all institutions, colleges, and universities in Maryland. The application requests will be may range from a minimum of $100,000 to a maximum of $5 million, and will be intended to enhance your already, we're assuming, campus safety activities to include, but not be limited to, campus security assessments, campus camera systems, establishing security operations centers, installing security locks on all campus buildings, especially residence halls, establishing an event coordination center, or developing an emergency management plan. So this is the informal announcement. We will be sending the notice of funding availability out to the appropriate people at your institutions. And the applications will be due by May 31st, so that we can decide what we're going to award during June and have it available July 1st when the fiscal year begins. And that's my announcement. Yes, Mr. Power.
Hey, Jeff, just one quick question. You sort of put together a list of things that are one-time funding that would be ongoing funding. Is there going to be sort of any prioritization as to whether it's one time or whether the institution commits to continuing the endeavor, given that I don't think you guys know if you're getting this grant on a
Yeah,
year.
this is for fiscal 2025.
Yeah.
So ideally, I would advise institutions to approach it as one-time funding. You know, we're assuming and we're hoping that institutions already have a portion of their annual operating budget dedicated to public safety. And we will be asking that in the application just to get an idea of what institutions are doing already. But this, this will be for given recent events that have happened over the last year or two at different college campuses, there is a concern that, for the state to assist the institutions to enhance their safety policies and initiatives. So
Okay.
it's one-time funding as far as we know for fiscal 2025.
And then presumably one-time endeavors will be higher ranked in awards than things that would be ongoing nature.
Yeah, unless, we feel comfortable that the campus will be able to proceed with the ongoing initiatives being proposed. And there's another question.
Yes, Phyllis Keys from Morgan State. So my question is about the timing, because you said it's going to be likely that it will be due by May the 31st. Do you have any idea when when the information will be forthcoming? The parameters about this and when we can start.
We want to get the information out within the next week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I think another point here is I know that a lot of institutions are trying to get the federal funding. Some of the federal agencies may be providing funding too. So this state fund sometimes may make our institutions more competitive for the federal funding. So keep that in mind. We want to encourage our institutions to compete for federal funds. Also, if state funds puts you in a better situation to win federal grants, I think that would be very good too. Any informal, formal suggestions, you can write to Jeff, before he sends the applications out. So this is the first time we are doing something like this. We are learning. We are being supported by safety folks at the state level and other grants folks. But all suggestions are welcomed.
Thank you.
Great. We will, if there are no other questions for Mr. Newman, we'll turn it over to Mr. Dorsett on financial aid update.
Good morning, everyone. I'll share my screen. So first, as indicated with House Bill 0607, just waiting for the final numbers for promise. However, we did go through and send institutions a preliminary scale of what their promise awards will be for the FY25. We are or do need to meet with MAC one more time to finalize the final procedures. We talked about how funds would be distributed to the institutions. I do believe MAC received from the business department that they would prefer to receive half of the funds in the beginning and then a second allocation, but I don't know if that was ever finalized, so we will need to meet with MAC to discuss that and make sure that we're all in agreement on that. Based off legislation, the allocations are based off the total amount or percentage of Pell recipients at each institution. We used fall 22 head counts for each institution, which was actually an advantage to institutions because we used the FY23 federal government Pell data. So if the fall head counts have less than the Pell data, it makes the percentage for each institution go up. So based off the allocations, and right now what we're perceiving is that half of the funds will be given to each institution once funds become available. We've already worked out a plan that we need to finalize with the institutions at MAC, in which reporting will happen during end of November, December. Institutions will be able to, and they can report prior to that, But by that time, institutions will identify how much or what percentage of funds they have actually spent. From there, communication will go out to institutions to be able to request to transfer funds and decrease the second allocation, or request additional funding if needed and if that additional funding is available. Based off those requests, allocations will be adjusted if need be, and remaining funds will be sent to institutions for them to finalize their awarding. At the end of the year, around July, institutions will do their final reporting, and whatever funds that have not been spent will be required to be sent back to MHEC, giving institutions until December of the subsequent year to send back those funds. So we're pretty much ready to go with Promise. Regulations are almost set. We'll be getting with legal to finalize those regulations. And again, that last piece, we just need to meet with MAC to move forward. Dr. Rye.
Well, thank you all very much. And is Brad Stewart here? I saw Monica. Is Brad here too?
No, Brad is not here.
Okay, so
Al.
here's my message, that we got everything we wanted, right? So number one, Promise Scholarship is available to part-time students. There's no deadline of March 1st, right? And it is available to all non-credited students, right? It's completely decentralized now. So in past, we have $20 million a year, and we were able to spend only a fraction of that money. Great scholarship, several students can benefit from it. So our objective should be that we should spend 100% of these funds, about $20 million. So let's make sure that students on campuses are aware of this possibility, especially the non-credit side, because non-credit folks often don't use scholarship funds in this way, and they're often not aware of these possibilities. I'm meeting with presidents. Dr. Dow and I are on Friday. I'm going to remind them again, but make sure that everyone knows that now is completely decentralized, available to part-time students, and our objective is to use up entire $20 million. Thank you.
Al, we're happy to meet with you. Just reach out to me today. We'll set up a meeting so we can, finalize anything that you need.
Sure. Well,
Okay.
Is it going to be another committee meeting, or is it just going to be us?
I don't know. Just reach out, tell us what you need, and we'll get on it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, with Promise, we will be having a workshop to provide to the FAO offices in regards to how the process will work. Monica, I'll reach out to you and we'll make sure we meet before we have that training and workshop for the FAO offices. But we're ready to go, like Dr. Rye has said, with Promise to move forward. If there are no questions, I'll move over to our next discussion, which is the FAFSA. So our goal is to award students as quickly as possible, especially students who have submitted a timely FAFSA, and make sure that they have their financial aid so they can make the decisions that they need to make. Concerns or recent concerns. Last month, the department delivered ICERs to schools and state agencies in batches, increasing volume in order to test. What came across was on April 1, Department of Ed identified that there were errors. About 20% of the applications were affected by one of these three following issues. As a solution, FSA provided or hosted a tax data discrepancy webinar in which they indicated they would provide us with two lists, a record of affected, unaffected FAFSAs, as well as a record of affected FAFSAs for us to utilize and identify which records were good to move forward and which records we needed to hold off on and wait for them to reprocess. Just to give an analysis, we received a total of 136,000 ICERs. The Department of Ed identified 22,530 error ICERs. Of the 136,465, there were also 15,617 rejected ICERs. Rejected ICERs indicates that a student does not have an SAI. There's something wrong with their FAFSA that they still need to complete. Total ICERs, no errors or rejects, was 98,318. And I'll get into this why I indicate this, but 11,711 of those ICERs had no family size. 7,301 had a family size, had an income of 0 with no family size. And 1,069 had an income between 0 and 60,619 with no family size. Based off this analysis, and this is just a projection of the maximum amount of eligible applicants based off how many FAFSAs we have right now, based off the number of household size, household income, the number of students eligible in each category with household size and household income, the average award amount, which we calculated using 2020 to 2024 award data, we're projected that we may have the possible of 16,007 students eligible for guaranteed access for a total amount of $222,241, or $222,241,188. Of course, this is just a large-scale projection. This is not based off, we could not identify yet what students were in a master's program, what students were in an undergrad program. Of course, we don't know what students are working on their second bachelor's degree or what students will be going part-time. So this is just a maximum kind of review, and we'll have more up-to-date information as we bring in FAFSAs. We are working this week to just do final testing on FAFSAs before we import into production. We'll be sending out a communication to individuals, letting them know when the FAFSAs are actually imported in. And the reason why is we're just making sure that we're importing the correct data and we're awarding students correctly before we move forward. Current challenges, and which is why we're still testing, family size. Family size has replaced household size with Department of Education to calculate a student's AID index. So notably, family size can appear in multiple places throughout the student's ICER. The department have recently released scripts or calculations last week in which our vendor is working to identify the family size using those different calculations. For instance, in instances where family size is calculated as there are both a calculated size and a self-reported family size, the federal government requires that we have to use the self-reported family size. So again, there are several locations in which family size is listed on the FAFSA, and we want to make sure we have it calculated correctly. Reason B is, in order to be eligible for the Guaranteed Access Grant, a student must be 130% of the federal poverty guidelines based on their household size and the poverty guideline of 130% connected with that household size. So the issue that we're running into is that through the Department of Education, when a student qualifies with an SAI equal to -1,500, which we call Pell Formula 1, that student automatically is waived from having to put family size on their FAFSA. So therefore, several records that we're indicating because a student is Pell Formula 1, we are missing the household size or family size for that student and their family, which is making it hard for the system to calculate if that individual is eligible for the Guaranteed Access Grant. So our awarding timeline, we are still projected to start our awarding by May 1. That is our goal, that is our focus, that's what we are moving towards. Our goal is to award any student that has completed their FAFSA and has submitted any and all documentation by April 15th. We will award them by May 1. May 15th, any student that has completed their FAFSA and submitted all documentation by May 1st, we award them on May 15th. And then our goal is to make sure that we award all students that have submitted their FAFSA by May 15th, and submitted their documentations even after, as long as they've submitted their FAFSA by May 15th, to award those students as we move forward. We will look at awarding on a weekly basis to these different groups of students. Verification purposes, we will select about 3 to 5%, which is a small percent of individuals for verification. There will be 2 groups, an automated and a randomized group. What we mean by automated is applicants that indicate they have a general education diploma, applicants identify as independent for other reasons than working on a master's or professional degree, or 24 years of age or older, will be selected just to provide supporting documentation. So GED, they would just provide documentation that they have a GED. Applicants that are independent, let's say that they say they're in foster care, they provide documentation indicating that they are in foster care. The randomized is 2 subgroups. One is initial applicants that have not been selected for federal verification, that have IRS response codes 203, 206, 212, or 214. Those IRS response codes are where an individual either filed taxes, but for some reason the IRS could not import their information in, or 214, the contributor did not file tax returns at all. And again, that's 3 to 5% of those groups of individuals. The other group will be MHEC 1 app applicants that are undocumented, that were not able to complete a FAFSA and are eligible to receive the Guaranteed or Educational Assistance Grant. These will only be initial applicants. We will not be verifying any renewal applicants. And then our awarding priorities. Our awarding priorities will be GA renewals, EA renewals, GA initials. Unfortunately, due to budget and allocations and us needing to make sure that we award all GA initials before we move to EA initials, EA initials will not be reviewed to see if that we can award until the end of June. Once we have identified that we've awarded all GA initials, and we can determine how much funding is remaining to award any EA initials if funding is available. And I'll leave it there for questions. Yes, Candace.
Hi, thanks, Al, for all the work you're doing. Appreciate it. I know on Wednesday there's a meeting, a kind of open house rolling all day, and it's tied up with the governor's agency on service and civic engagement. This is the Department of Eds. They declared it FAFSA Week of Action, and I know they're reaching out to K-12 to have them set aside time during the day to work on the FAFSA, which I think is terrific, because right now, more than anything, we just need students, especially in under-resourced high schools, we need them filling out the FAFSA. So I didn't want to get ahead of the game for Wednesday, but anything you want to tell us about what we should be doing or preparing to do during this FAFSA Week of Action? Because it was kind of announced, I think, sort of quickly.
Yes, definitely it's just engaging those students as much as possible, putting together where we're notifying them as early as possible before they even come, if they're having something at the school, to tell them to bring certain information with them, making sure that they have an FSA ID, making sure if their parents have an FSA ID. For individuals that have parents that may be undocumented and don't have initially an FSA ID, the federal government has put out instructions on how those individuals can move forward to get a FSA ID. So I think that that's a lot of the frustration and confusion that has came from a lot of students. Even though we did that kind of statewide presentation where we went out, I don't know how many individuals took advantage of getting students to actually create that in the beginning. And for the individuals that had no Social Security number that could not, unfortunately, the federal government did not have that available. until the day the FAFSA opened, which there were a lot of different issues with that as well. But I think with the Department of Ed working out a lot of the different issues, it's really that pushback, making sure individuals have an FSA, because that's really what's stopping an individual at this point in time. If an individual for any reason cannot import their tax information in, or it can't connect with the IRS, it does allow them, as I just indicated, to manually enter that information. So even if that individual has taxes, 2 years back, because we do go off a prior year, then they have that information. If they don't, then they can put in zeros or whatever numbers that they need to put there. But really, it's just educating students and pushing them to have those resources. I think the way that the federal government is really pushing it is, if you have an FSA ID, you're good, because they can do so many things with that. I mean, that's the signing of it now. It's no more a signature page or anything else like that. They still have it, but that takes forever to process. So the biggest push is really getting that FSA ID established for the student, for their parent. Once one parent has it, then it's good, because it connects with the other students, as long as they indicate that's their parent. So to me, that's really the biggest push, is to get them to do it. And then, for students that aren't eligible to do a FAFSA, getting them to create an MD CAPS account and do that MHEC 1 app. I know that we had held off from putting that on students' actual MD CAPS account. Once they did it, we did send them confirmation, but we didn't have it there because we're trying to fix the FAFSA. And every time we change something with the FAFSA, we have to change it with the MHEC 1 app as well. So that's why we didn't have that there. But getting them to do it, getting them to have that email to say that they did it, because there's documentation for them to say, hey, this was processed, if we have any issues. Really, that's the push, to do everything that they can do on their end.
Thank you.
Derek, you want to talk a little bit about the event on 17th?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Rai. The event on the 17th, you all, will be an all-day event. We will begin with time slots, though, for each identified Maryland-wide stakeholder. Higher education, Maryland General Assembly, nonprofits, and also local education agencies as well. We sent out the reminder. If you have not received it, please let us know. We'll get that information to you. I do believe the Maryland Higher Education segments, you all are scheduled. Give me 1 second. I don't have the document up, and please forgive me. I think you all are scheduled between 2:30 and 3:30. I will confirm that and send it out through Al again as well. And again, we will begin promptly at 9:30 in the morning. And we would do 1.5 hour segments. Also, as part of the discussion on Wednesday, the Governor's Office of Social and Civic Innovation will be participating and discussing the GAP service year option for students as well. For those students who may want to participate in the GAP year of service, who are eligible for the GA, their financial aid and the new regulations will be, in a sense, still eligible to them, available to them after the GAP service year. And so again, that office will discuss the GAP service year as well at the end of our presentation on Wednesday. And again, we have 1.5 hour segments for all stakeholders throughout the state of Maryland. This is our final push. We're pushing hard. We're trying to get at least to 52%. I think historically we've been at around 56% this year. Currently we're hovering around 41, 42 Al, based on the latest metrics. So again, this is a hard push for us across the state. And the FAFSA changes in terms of some of the questions are very cumbersome for some families. We want to make sure that all the resources are brought to bear to help them get those questions answered and to complete the FAFSA, especially those individuals who do want to go into post-secondary education or career schools. It's a 2 year, 4 years.
Thank you, Al. And, certainly the number of completions are down for our state, and other states nationally is down. We're trying to do everything possible to give students and families support so that they can complete FAFSA. Among other things, we drafted a message with our superintendent, the state superintendent for MSDE, that has gone out, or it will go out today, to all LEAs in the state, encouraging them, each superintendent and their counselors, giving time during this FAFSA week of 15th to students this week and give them support to complete those applications. So service learning is for, suppose students who have, unfortunately some students are giving up. So another opportunity we need to present to them, that the state has service year plan, and that provides them funding and also $6,000 towards college. So that is another venue, and we want to promote that wonderful plan for students in the Maryland, especially students who are graduating and the students who are senior this year. The other is that, as Al noted, we have received some ICERs, but not all. And there is some error in what we have received, and there is some incomplete information, like family size, things like that. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware where we are with this data, and when Maryland can start awarding these scholarships. Today, with Al's support, I believe from May 1st, we will start awarding scholarships, hoping everything goes well, right? So we had several town halls with leaders of your institutions. Just last Friday, we had a meeting with all financial aid directors of all campuses. They're all working very hard. Please make sure that we really appreciate their effort. This has been a very challenging year for everyone, especially people in admissions and people in financial aid. So again, the students who have been accepted at our institutions, some of those students have not completed FAFSA. So they are our top priority because they have already applied, they're already admitted. What can we do to support them so they can complete FAFSA? And if they're eligible for state scholarships, how can we award them those scholarships as soon as possible? So communication is important. I'm very thankful to our director, Al, and also Derek Coley. They have done amazing work in the last few months. Always, this is a changing, everyday things change, and that's understandable. But collaboration and communication is extremely important, and I thank both of them for working very, very hard to making sure that our students are in a better place. And as higher education community, we are all communicating, we're all problem solving together. Thank you. Al, go ahead.
Oh, and just to add in, because I did forget, for the household size for students who have a no value, we are working on a process in which we will notify the student that we need them to complete their household size on ND caps. But we're also working on developing a roster that institutions will be able to utilize, so that if the institution, if the student listed the institution on their FAFSA and we are missing the household size, the institution will be able to identify the household size and just confirm that that's the student's household size for us to be able to calculate. So that is one other thing that we are working on. Additionally, just to add, when I'm talking about rosters with Promise, we are also offering institutions a eligibility roster for Promise, in which students that complete their FAFSA, once we import them in, institutions will immediately to see any student that pre-qualifies based off the information on their FAFSA, that they graduated from Maryland High School, course that they listed a community college on their FAFSA, and that they meet the income requirements. This is not a roster that community colleges have to wait to use, but it is something to help them identify those individuals, as well as it has the format that when the community colleges do their certification roster, they can use that roster and they can add students to that roster. The biggest thing is we just need to make sure for those credit promise students that we have those students FAFSAs. For non-credit, we are working out, we're on that roster, they could put an NC or something like that, where they can identify the non-credit students, and we can have that in the MDCAP system as well. That's it for me.
Any other questions for Mr. Dorsett and Mr. Coley? If not, we will turn to one of our last agenda items, is just member updates. We can go through one by one. Let's start with USM. Candace, do you have anything to add?
Working hard on the FAFSA. Transfer groups are continuing to meet. ArtSys is moving along. We have a lot of institutions have their equivalencies in, and today and tomorrow we're doing in-person training on what we're now called program transfer guides. You know, you think about the old recommended transfer programs, now we're in program transfer guides. Those have to be entered manually though, so it won't be quick. So they're going to do their best to get them in. They'll be working through the summer. And the development team has been very helpful in responding to feedback from institutions, try to make the process easier and faster. All higher ed segments are involved. Thanks to everybody for the work and patience as we go through 36 simultaneous platform implementations.
Great. Thank you for that update. Monica? Anything from Mac?
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much. I guess the biggest update or biggest good news that we have is that we received a $2 million earmark from Senator Holland and Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin, which we're really excited about. It will allow us to expand our cybersecurity ranges that have been developed. I think it first developed in Montgomery College, and we'll be able to expand our workforce training program for the state. So with the $2 million from the feds, we hope to leverage that with additional funding from the state level, as well as a few other grants, so that we can expand on the cybersecurity side. So we're really, really excited about that. Thank you.
Great. Congratulations. That is super exciting. Okay, Phyllis.
Okay, I will mention, of course, the substantial modification workforce group was mentioned at our Dean's Council. I don't think my video is working right, but hopefully you can hear me. So substantial modification workforce was mentioned at the Dean's Council, and we got some feedback for that group. And then also I would like to mention that Dean Oscar Barton was recognized by the American Society of Mechanical Engineers for his work on having students, leading students and teaching students through engineering. And they mentioned his work with transfer students and other students through the years, as he has added to the diversity of mechanical engineers in his career. So the provost mentioned that and gave kudos on that, so I'd like to mention it. Other than that, hopefully you heard my other messages. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Emily.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
That is exciting news. Matt.
Nope, nothing at this time, Emily. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. And then do we have I don't believe we have our St. Mary's representative on. So with that, anything for the good of the group? Any other business? Our next meeting is in June. We'll stay in touch through all of our various other mechanisms or via email to share news and announcements, and ask that you circulate information to the campuses as necessary. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.